So I'll
Yeah.
start. I'll introduce myself first. So I'm JR. I'm from the Philippines. I grew up here. I used to travel a lot before the pandemic hits. We have a small business. We have a small greenhouse business or plant business here in the Philippines. And since the start of the enhanced, we call it enhanced community quarantine here or lockdown, we kind of started with this interviewing plant parents, giving some tips for our clients and for our plant parents in the Philippines. So yeah, that's why I tried to reach out for some of the plant parents that I've known before in Instagram. So I'm happy that you really take time to be with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I think this is a great thing you're doing. I mean, in these times, people need to de-stress, and what better way to do that than, talk about plants.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Vladan. People call me Vlad. Online, I'm known as Mr Houseplant. I'm originally from Belgrade, Serbia, but I moved to Washington, D.C. in the United States 3 years ago. I have a full-time job at a nonprofit, but in my spare time, I teach people about houseplant care on social media. My main channel is Instagram, but I do this on all sorts of social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, almost everywhere. I've been teaching houseplant care for about 2.5 years, but I've been working with houseplants for over 10 years now.
Nice.
That would be in a nutshell.
Yeah, actually, I try to follow. I've been following you for quite some time, and I've learned a lot with your short clips in the Instagram on a lot of things, propagating, fertilizing, and trying to just decipher the sickness of the plant. But maybe if you can tell us more why you get the handle of Mr. Houseplant. What was the reason that you call yourself as Mr. Houseplant?
That's an interesting question. When I moved to the US, when I started thinking about starting teaching on social media, I was trying to figure out a nice catchphrase, a nice name, and at the time I was following this blog that's called Mr. Money Mustache, and it's basically an early retirement blog. So I don't know, I like the idea of Mr. something, and then what else would it be if not Mr. Houseplant? That just made the most sense to me. I also played with some other names, but those are very common names, like people are calling themselves plant doctors, plant whisperers. I basically did a small survey among my friends, and we decided that Mr. Houseplant was the best.
Yeah, it's actually unique, but at the same time, people can relate to the name that it talks about really house plants. And can you describe a little about Serbia? What's the weather like in Serbia?
Yeah, so I live in Washington D.C., but I'm at the moment in Belgrade in Serbia. Due to the circumstances, I came here a few weeks ago to visit my parents, and then this whole thing with the coronavirus started, so I wasn't able to leave, which is sort of a good thing because now I can at least help my parents get through this. Serbia, it's a small country, but it's a very nice place, a very friendly place with friendly people, beautiful nature, excellent food. The weather is, I believe that's called a continental climate, so we have warm and humid summers and relatively cold winters, usually with some snow. But yeah, we have a lot of beautiful plants here.
Nice. Just last year, I visited also Washington D.C. Should I have the chance, I would have probably meet you there, but it was just a very short trip in Washington D.C. just before I went to San Francisco. But yeah, maybe you can also describe the whole condition in Washington D.C. and why is it a good thing also to have to be a planned parent in Washington DC?
In Washington, well, we have a lot of plant shops. We have a huge houseplant community. There's a big population of young people, a lot of millennials, and millennials have just gotten totally crazy about houseplants in the last couple of years. So the houseplant market is it's booming, it's exploding. So it's a really good place to be. You can find plant workshops, plant swaps, and a lot of shops. Yeah.
Nice. And what about I think you wanted to discuss also the leaf plant shop where you used to work.
Little Leaf. Yeah. So when I moved to the US 3 years ago, that was basically, I don't know if you know the story, so I actually played the green card lottery. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who are not, the US does this green card lottery every year where they give green cards to 50,000 people from all over the world, and it's completely random, it's a lottery. So I was lucky to win a green card. So that's why I moved 3 years ago, and I saw this as an opportunity to pursue my dream, which is to do something with plants, to work with plants. So as soon as I moved, I visited all the plant shops in DC. I think around 15 plant shops at the time, and I found the best one. At that time there was Little Leaf, and so I went and applied for a job, and I was lucky that they needed someone at the moment. So I spent about 2 years working there as a shop associate. So I was working with customers, selling plants, helping them resolve their houseplant issues. I also worked at our storage space where we kept all of our plants. So I was taking care of them, watering them, making sure they're good and healthy, and nurturing them back to health when they weren't well. And it's a beautiful shop. Lots of interesting plants, and very interesting group of people, very interesting group of customers that come there on a daily basis. Very nice, positive place.
Nice. So how did that happen? Is it also fast in terms of processing your green card when you won that green card lottery?
So that took about a year and a half. It's not such a fast process because you need to submit a lot of documentation, go through all sorts of interviews, but there aren't really any major requirements as long as you completed high school and you can speak the basic level of English. It's usually a formality, but it just takes a little bit of time. It's an amazing opportunity just being able to experience the US, because it's for me it was like a different planet, like culturally completely different experience than Europe. Completely different.
That was my feeling as well. The first time I went to Washington DC, it was springtime, so of course I saw a lot of that cherry blossom everywhere, and it was really amazing. Maybe we can start also with your plant parent story. How did you started your plant journey?
Sure. Yeah, so I think plants were always in my family. Ever since I can remember, my mom always had a lot of house plants, so our house was filled with plants. So I would always watch her take care of them, and I guess I probably picked up a lot of things with her. And then my brother also, he lives in Venice, Italy, and he has a huge rooftop garden, about 100 square meters. So he has all sorts of plants, succulents, cacti, tropical plants, fruits, whatever you can imagine. So it was always in our family. I only started developing an interest maybe somewhere over 10 years ago, where I first started taking care of an outdoor garden around my parents' flat. So I did that for maybe 5 years, and then I got a little bit into organic vegetable gardening. And at the time, I started slowly acquiring houseplants, and I started learning about them. So for me, it was important to learn as much as I can about each plant. So I always did a lot of research, did a lot of reading, and I also did a lot of experimenting. I tried to subject plants to different conditions to see what they like, what they don't like. I was never afraid, to cut a plant and to try and propagate and see what happens.
Can you still remember your first house plant?
Um, I can't remember my first houseplant, but I can tell you the houseplant that had the largest impact on me.
All right.
And that was a Venus flytrap. My girlfriend at the time bought me a Venus flytrap, and I went completely crazy because you don't have a lot of plants that react to your touch. Like, can you imagine that? Like you put your finger inside, it closes. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Some sense of interaction.
Yeah. I mean, really, I know there's that Mimosa purica plant and Venus flytraps, and I don't know if there's anything else. But I completely fell in love with them. So I decided to start my own carnivorous plant business in Serbia. So I started propagating them. Basically, at any point in time, I would have a couple of hundred of Venus flytraps. So my home was completely packed with flytraps. And I did that for a few years before I got the green card and then decided to move to the US. And unfortunately, I had to leave all the flytraps here.
Yeah, you can't bring them to US.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a little bit complicated with all the phytosanitary certificates.
What about I read also in one of your, I think it was in YouTube, there's your houseplant care philosophy. Can you share something about that?
Yes, absolutely. So my houseplant care philosophy has a few points. One is that houseplant care is very easy, contrary to what most people believe. I think houseplant care has just been made to seem so complicated, partially also because of different companies trying to sell you things like fertilizer and then make it even more complicated by saying, oh, now you have fertilizer for orchids, fertilizer for citrus, fertilizer for this and for that. So it's gotten to seem very complicated, but it's not. It's super easy. And one of the bases for my easy approach to houseplant care is light. Light is the most important factor in houseplant care. Usually when people buy a plant, they ask how often should I be watering this, when in fact they should ask how much light does this plant need. And that makes houseplant care so much easier. Also, a big part of my houseplant care philosophy is experimentation. I try to push people to not be afraid and to try and experiment, and see what happens with their plants. Because when I worked at Little Leaf, I noticed that a lot of customers, they're just so afraid that they're going to do something to their plants, that they're going to hurt them, that they're going to kill them. I mean, truth be told, we've all killed so many plants, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you learn, and that's how I look at it. It's all a learning experience. Each failure is just a learning experience. So I just try to encourage people to not be afraid to experiment. And for me, the last but not the least important point is that people should try and have fun. Plants are supposed to be fun. They're not supposed to be stressful, For me, taking care of plants is like meditation. It's just a way to, get some peace and quiet, and I try to enjoy my time with plants and not stress about every single imperfection I see.
Yeah, it meant, it's really meant to be enjoyed and have that moment with your plant to ensure that you cope with everything as well. Just taking care of the plants that you like. But yeah, I also noticed that being a plant parent, the sense of people is that it's really difficult to take care of plants, and they don't want, as you said, they don't want to experiment on the plants, on where they can best thrive as plants. But yeah, I also agree that the best thing really is to experience, to learn from that experience. But I think that the problem also with trying to experiment is the cost of the plant. So because there would be plant parents who would buy like at the first, at first for their first plant would be a Monstera deliciosa or something like a fiddle leaf fig tree. So those types of plants can't be experimented. It's kind of expensive. Even here in the Philippines, still expensive. What would be your best
Sorry.
advice for first-time plant parents?
My advice for first-time plant parents is to, first of all, not to have unrealistic expectations of perfection. That is the first thing that helps reduce the stress levels. I don't really know how this all came to be that people think houseplants should always look perfect. I really don't understand. I mean, plants don't look perfect in nature, never. There's wind, there's rain, there's, animals and insects eating them, stomping on them, so they never look perfect. They don't look perfect in botanical gardens. They never look perfect. But when we buy houseplants, we want them to look perfect in our homes. That's just not possible. The only place where they are perfect are nurseries, where they are in highly controlled environments that we can never replicate in our homes. So my main advice would be to just don't look at every imperfection as a reason to get stressed. Usually people see, a brown spot or a yellowing leaf, and they immediately get upset. In most cases, it's not a reason to get upset. It's normal for some leaves to get yellow. It's normal for some leaf tissue to die off, and that's fine. It's just a change of. We all need a change in the mindset, in the perspective. Well, another advice that I would have for new plant parents is to try and educate themselves from reliable sources. I always recommend learning from university websites and agricultural extensions. A lot of people, they just Google information and go to any website that comes up. There's a lot of incorrect information on plant care. There's also, like if you're looking for snake plant care, if you go to 3 websites, you're going to see 3 different care information. One side is going to say it's a low light plant, another one is going to say you should keep it in bright light, and the third one is going to say keep it in full sun. And all of them would be right because that plant can thrive in different conditions, but that's just confusing to a new plant parent. So I would say just reliable sources, universities, agricultural extensions, or people who have a lot of experience with houseplants.
And where do you have that website where you go to or you recommend something?
So I recommend many different agricultural extensions in the US. So I don't have a specific one. I just, whatever I'm searching on Google, I just add agricultural extension to the end, and then you get extension websites or university websites. There are also a few people that I like to follow and that do have reliable information online, like the Houseplant Journal or Epic Gardening, Kevin from Epic Gardening, and Darren from the Houseplant Journal.
Yeah, I'm following also Kevin from Epic Gardening and Summer Rain Oaks of the Brooklyn Housestead.
Right. Yeah. There are reliable sources out there, definitely.
Nice. Oh, I'm so amazed that we're following the same people for plant advice.
Yeah, I think the houseplant community, it's huge, but it's not that huge. Like you don't have that many sources that are really big, because I think also the houseplant influencer industry on Instagram, it's relatively new. Started only in the last couple of years.
So what are your favorite plants?
My favorite plants. So my favorite plant is definitely Venus flytrap. and I can show you one if you want.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Okay, let's see. Can I change the camera here?
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. Switch camera. Okay.
Oh, nice. So, is this something that you recently bought when you went back to Serbia?
Yes. So when I realized that I'm gonna be stuck here, I actually went to a local plant shop and I bought all of the plants that I found interesting, and I bought this Venus flytrap among the others. Yeah, I figured if I'm gonna stay here for a few weeks or a few months, I might as well have something to, something to do during quarantine.
Yeah, definitely it should be plants.
Yeah. So this is one of the plants this is definitely my top favorite.
Mhm.
I also like ZZ Raven, so I
Yeah.
can show you as well. I have it here.
Wow, super nice.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to acquire a variegated ZZ plant.
Yeah.
They look incredible. My favorite plants change. As soon as I find something, new and interesting, it becomes my new favorite plant. Venus flytrap will always be my number one, but number two, number three, that changes all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have maybe whale fin snake plants?
Yeah, I have a whale fin here. I'll get. This is my whale fin.
Nice.
But I think it's still a baby whale.
Yeah.
So
Maybe that's
I just
maybe that's
adopted some of the whale fin that I have in the garden.
okay. I have a pretty big one, and I also have a variegated whale fin, which is that's beautiful. So let me show you now. Unfortunately, I can't show you some of my beautiful plants because they're back in BC. But I can show you. This is my whale fin.
Oh, it's really big already.
Yeah. And here's an interesting thing. When I water it, it starts turning and twisting.
Oh, wow. So that's a time lapse.
That's a time lapse, yeah. This was over the course of a few hours. Pretty short one.
Oh, those were interesting plans. Actually, I have my ZZ Raven as well, but my ZZ Raven is just very small, so it's right outside my window. But that was given to me as a gift by a friend, so I really take charge of that. Make sure it will thrive.
Nice. So what are your favorites? I'm really curious. I mean, being in the Philippines, I assume you can find much more diversity than what I can find here.
Yeah, as you said, the favorite will always change. But my first house plant is ZZ, the ZZ plant. So I don't know if you can see it, but it's somewhere there. Yeah, that's basically.
Yeah.
And then the other ones are my new favorites are now Calatheas and Marandas.
Okay.
But they're kind of finicky, but I enjoy them when I sometimes see them, of course, move because of the movements that their leaves can produce. But yeah, I have two humidifier just to make sure that the humidity level kind of increase inside my room. Yeah, but those are my favorite. But I also I have a rubber tree and a ficus Audrey in my room.
Oh, I love that one. I still haven't gotten ficus Audrey, but that's a beautiful plant.
Yeah, I'll show you. So it's medium size, but yeah, this is something that maybe around 2 months with me.
Nice. Calatheas are so beautiful. If you don't mind getting, occasional brown edges and brown leaf tips, they're beautiful.
Yeah, I actually some maybe the lower leaves are turning kind of brown in the edges, but they're still very beautiful.
Yeah, I think it all gives them character, Um, it gives them character. I mean, I have plants that, were sick, that lost most of their leaves. I mean, I rarely throw away those plants because when they recover, even if they don't have any of the lower leaves, I mean, they still have a story to tell. It's always, they're always beautiful to me.
Yeah, I that's also something that we share to our plant parents that um these plants, they will, some of their leaves will fall off or turn brown because they are living things, and as living things they will continuously grow even in their pots. So there would be changes as well into their physical, the physical thing of the plants, but you just have to enjoy the caring process for them.
Exactly, yeah, that's well said. You have to enjoy the process. Exactly.
So maybe some other tips that you can, or some plant recommendations for new plant parents.
Okay, I would recommend plants that are low light tolerant. So, and the emphasis is on tolerant because there isn't such a thing as a low light plant. No plant likes being in low light. Some plants can tolerate it better. So, my recommendation for first time plant parents, instead of getting a fiddle leaf pig, would be pothos, heartleaf philodendron, ZZ plant, snake plant, marimo moss balls, dracaenas, corn plant, Dracaena fragrans, Chinese evergreens. They're also super easy and low light tolerant and very beautiful.
The Chinese evergreens are, yeah, they're very tolerant to different lighting conditions, and they're really nice. I have those also. And inside your, maybe your house, how many plants do you have?
I have around 100 plants at the moment in my house, and then about another 70 in my office. My office is also full of plants. Yeah.
And this
So
is the office that you work full time?
yes, the office in Washington D.C. that is closed at the moment. So I have a coworker that goes once a week to get mail and also to water my plants.
Major task to be done. The
It is.
watering plants, especially during this time when everybody's on a lockdown.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I'm lucky to have someone, that's able to do that. My girlfriend is watering my plants at home, and then my coworker is watering plants at the office. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but it's something that we all enjoy. I also like how you make the videos, or the ones that you post, especially on Instagram, that they're very short, very straightforward, and something that people can understand. I get a lot of tricks and tips from that posts that you have. What was the intention behind those Instagram posts that you have? Is it really intended for the plant parents? Is it to promote something?
Well, thank you. That's an excellent question. I try deliberately to make my plant videos short and to the point because I'm trying to convey the message through my videos that plant care is easy. That's why I try to make them very short, very quick, and just convey the most important messages. And yeah, I hope that I'm succeeding. What I'm trying to do also is explain a little bit of science behind the plants, because I think that can also help people be less afraid to do things. I hear that a lot of people are afraid to cut their plants and propagate because they don't know what's going to happen to the plant that was cut. Is it going to grow back again? Is it not going to grow back? They're afraid to prune roots because they think they're going to hurt the plant. Whereas, root pruning only promotes new root growth. So that's also another thing that I'm trying to do, just explain how things work and why people shouldn't be afraid to do things and to experiment.
Yeah, that's very nice to have that kind of thinking, especially that a lot of people are really afraid to experiment on their plants. Maybe for a last question is, what would be your message for plant parents around the world, or those that are, of course, plant parents that are on a lockdown now?
To have fun with the plants. That's, we can't do a lot, we can't go outside much, or some people at all, but we should enjoy the time spent with our plants. That's my main message. Just not stress about it.
Thank you very much, Vlad, for really taking this time off to talk to me, to a lot of plant parents that this video would be would be out there. So I really thank you for this time. Unless you have other things that you want to share that maybe I haven't asked you of, or you have questions for me.
I don't. You asked excellent questions, so I think we covered a lot of things. Yeah, it was really nice meeting you and talking to you, and I want to thank you again for the invite, and hopefully I'll get a chance to come to the Philippines at some point.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually my final message to you. If ever you're come to the Philippines, you're very welcome here. I can show you some gardens around, and we'll enjoy plants, of course.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. And if you come again to Washington D.C., let me know.
Thanks so much, Vlad.
Thank you.
Have
Take
a great
care.
day. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.